Welcome to Thursday Confessions. Today I'm going to share a few thoughts on the understanding of decolonization. It is about its understanding in the contemporary society and primarily its relationship to performance practice. The talk will consist of three parts. In the first part, I will cover the historical understanding of decolonization. Then I will proceed to speak about the contemporary academic perspective, and especially how it challenges Euro-Western knowledge systems. And finally, something very close to my heart, I will cover the decolonization of mind-body, where performance practice enters the spotlight. So feel free to check the episode description to skip to the parts you are drawn to the most. And now, let's start with the basics. When most people hear decolonization, they think of history books, independence movements, revolutions, and the removal of the oppressive political forces. You might think of India in 1947 or Ghana in 1957 and how they gained independence from the British colonial rule. Or, say, Algeria achieving independence from France in 1962. These were moments of rupture. Decolonization historically is about colonized nations breaking free from the grip of empires. And for us, people from ex-USSR Republic, it's also about breaking free from the Soviet Union regime, which, I am proud to point out, Lithuania, my country of origin, was the first one to do. But decolonization isn't just about flag-raising ceremonies and national anthems. It's about the long, complex process of undoing colonial power. Economically, culturally, and psychologically. The historical lens often focused on statehood, colonies becoming nations, but that's just scratching the surface. Below it lies a deeper wound. Colonization wasn't just about land, it was about identity, about language, about memory, and yes, about the body. When colonial powers came in, they didn't just extract resources, they imposed ways of thinking about race, time, value, and what counts as civilized. They installed themselves into the very way people lived, moved, performed their daily lives and rituals. Decolonization historically meant resisting all that, reclaiming not only space but time, and very importantly, voice. And here is the twist. Formal independence didn't erase colonial influence. The trauma, the hierarchy, the erasure lingered. And it still lingers to this day. Fast forward to today, decolonization is not just a historical term. It's a powerful, messy, living discourse, especially in academia. And I couldn't have put its problem better than the Inuit shaman from Greenland, Rahel, whose full name I will not dare to pronounce, but I will put it in the description. So she has recently been featured in the film by Zaya and Maurizio Benazzo, in which they collected stories from various indigenous communities from around the globe. This film was named The Eternal Song. And even though I am very hesitant to recommend any kind of films because I think we live in such a super abundance of screen-based arts, but this film feels like an important statement, so I highly recommend to watch it. And so I will put a link to it in the description. So in this film, Inuit shaman poses a question on behalf of her community. Who are we in this world when the structure is built for someone else? And it is precisely this problem of the structure that the decolonization in academia tries to tackle. In universities across the world, especially in former colonial centers like the UK, France, and the US, scholars are asking the hard questions. Why are European thinkers considered universal? Why is the canon so white and so Western? Who decides what counts as knowledge? This is what we mean by dismantling Euro-Western knowledge structures, because colonialism didn't just conquer lands. It colonized epistemologies, ways of knowing. It told the world, this is science, this is logic, and this is art. And everything else must be primitive and, obviously, inferior. And so decolonization in this space means unlearning. It means lifting up indigenous knowledge systems, but also Black feminist theory, queer voices, and very importantly for me, the voices of artists, researchers in academia. Which also means recognizing that that which we consider universal often really just means European in disguise. But it's not easy. Academia resists change. Institutions cling to power. And so decolonization isn't about gentle reform, it's about disruption. It says, let's rethink who speaks, who listens, and whose knowledge gets validated. And here is where performance practice starts to creep in. Because not all knowledge lives in books. Much of it lives in the body, in rhythm, in ritual and gesture. Which brings us to our final and most exciting part, decolonization of the mind-body. Here I deliberately refer to the mind-body with a dash in between instead of a space, which historically signifies separation. Because that's also the understanding which emerges from decolonized way of thinking, that mind and body is one, and we should not speak about it in separation, invented by the good old Cartesian duality. That is an important concept to grasp because it goes along with the undeniable truth that colonization wasn't just political, it was physical. It taught people to act and speak in a certain way. It separated mind from the body. It told us thought is superior to movement. Often it even criminalized dance, ritual, let alone sexuality. So when we talk about decolonization today, we have to ask, what does liberation feel like in the body? What does it sound like, move like? And in recognizing that performance practice is crucial. Whether it's dance, theater, spoken word, or embodied ritual, it offers a space to unlearn colonial scripts. It allows us to rehearse new ways of being. It allows us to remember ancestral knowledge, and it invites the body back into knowledge production. Let me give you an example. In many indigenous traditions, movement is a form of prayer. Such, for example, is the Hawaiian hula, which is often called meditation and movement. But in colonial frameworks, movement became entertainment, or even worse, exoticism. The colonial mindset imposed its understanding of supplier and consumer relationship on the arts, and taught the indigenous nations to see their culture through colonial gaze, as a product that needs to be sold and consumed, which was by no means a part of its original understanding. That's why, as per Samoan multidisciplinary artist Lemmy Podifacio's idea, we need to reclaim our creativity back, away from the market, and stop allowing it to measure who can and who cannot create performance. Because performance, when reclaimed, becomes resistance. It becomes healing. It's not just symbolic, it's not just art. It's a form of decolonial praxis. And although I am not an indigenous person who suffered the grave consequences of colonialism, I know that when I make performance, in whatever shape or form, I am refusing the systems that told me I had to fit in, to conform, to raise my roots. Perhaps that is the reason why I feel so liberated when I'm making performance happen. And that's why it always felt so unnatural to judge what is good and bad performance. And that's why this part excites me the most, because it's not theoretical, it's visceral. It's happening right here, right now, in the body. In me saying these lines on YouTube rather than placing them in another academic article. This is all a form of rupture. And each and every one of us could be a part of it, because decolonization isn't just one thing. It's a process, a provocation, and definitely a practice. Even if historically it was the struggle for liberation from empires, and academically it is the fight to dismantle Eurocentric knowledge systems, but there is also a personal level to it, in which we all could take part by giving ourselves permission to practice performance in the way which feels right to us. So ask yourself, what is it? And let your body be the answer. Thank you for listening to Thursday Confessions, and don't forget to see the description below if you want to revisit any parts. Of course, you can also share your thoughts in the comments below. And I hope to see you next Thursday. Bye.